I am really excited today to introduce you to Leesa Renee Hall. She is an author and an anti-bias facilitator. We'll hear a little bit about what that means. But what she's really here to do today is get us connected with the process of reflective writing with the goal of creating some certainty in these extremely uncertain times. I realized I got to plug one thing in.
You can all hear me still, right? Thumbs up, Leesa? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's better, right? A little better sound with a microphone. Oh, yeah. And so creating some certainty in these uncertain times. I don't know if you saw this morning some of the news that's come out of the UK. There's been some direction, and the whole country is feeling a little bit more chaotic because the direction is not clear. There's almost more uncertainty than there was before Boris Johnson put out the latest communication. So, and we're sort of stepping into that territory. I know up here in Toronto, and Lisa's in Toronto as well. She's a fellow Torontonian. But we talk to people all over North America and beyond. And the reality is, for a lot of people, the time right now is extremely uncertain. So when Leesa said she'd be able to offer some real insights on how to claim some certainty, I was all in. So let me introduce Leesa properly, and then we'll get to some questions and conversation about this topic. And at the end, we'll get to some Q&A as well. Now, on the Facebook group, if you're watching live, I put a note there that says, I'm a terrible multitasker. Straight up terrible. And there's a lag between Zoom and Facebook. So if you put a comment there, there's a good chance I won't see it. So if you do want to participate live, then I urge you to just sign up for the Zoom call. The link is in the Facebook group. It's just clarekumar.com/workfromhome. Easy to remember. And you can sign up there and join us on the call. So you have time to set that up and be part of the Q&A if you'd like to be. Okay. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Leesa Renee Hall. She's helped over 33,000 leaders explore unconscious bias using a signature process, which she calls Explore Biases Now. I love that. That's active. It's like, let's get to this. I have a whole question about bias that I want to bring to you too, Leesa, after we talk about reflective writing. Author of 10 books, Leesa was known as a technology pioneer before turning her attention to disrupting the misinformation hard-coded deep in the mind. I'd love to know what prompts that too. Her tips have been featured in The Guardian, American Express, Open, Globe and Mail, Choice, The Ottawa Citizen, Toronto Star, Prophet, and Inc., to name a few, along with TV, radio, and podcast experiences. I feel like we could have a whole fun conversation about media too, and how and what that's been like for you. But I want to dive in right now to this concept of reflective writing. Number one, I want to understand it and how you think it will help us going forward. So Leesa, can you enlighten us?
Absolutely. And before I enlighten you, I just noticed that I didn't put on my lipstick.
Oh,
I used to do when I would, this actually, I'm going to apply it now. And I do this, and it became a fun thing that I did at the beginning of my own lives that I used to host on Instagram. And so one day I actually forgot, and I applied it live, and people were like, oh my goodness, this is so, like a whole bunch of, people got excited. I thought this is so strange. But as I use reflective writing, which I'll share with you in a moment, to unpack my own relationship with beauty, I found that lipstick is something that makes me feel beautiful. So whatever it is that makes you feel beautiful, I'd like you to grab that now. Just grab that now. Maybe it's applying lipstick, maybe it's a hat, a favorite scarf.
Scarves are something I wear a lot of. Mm-hmm. But have you ever noticed in movies, there's a lot of time paid to putting lipstick on? Beautiful. It's an intimate moment, I think, that
lots of time.
Yeah, there you go.
It is. And that's probably why my viewers get so excited. But Yeah, so it was through a process of reflective writing where I unpacked and explored a lot of my own unconscious biases. And there are a lot of other different benefits that occurred as well, which we're going to talk about, Claire. But the concept of reflective writing is where one goes through the activity of putting text and words on a page in a stream of consciousness way. So if you're familiar with Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, and it's on my bookshelf. I was hoping I could grab it quickly, but she talks about morning pages as a way to get all that wine grease so that you can reclaim your creativity. Others call it expressive writing. That's a term that Dr. James Pennebaker, who has done decades of research on therapeutic journaling. And so that's another term as well. I call it reflective writing because we write, stop, reflect, and then we continue writing. And so I love that concept.
Yeah, I'm familiar with The Artist's Way, and it's sort of a time in the morning where your subconscious is there. You're just you're crossing the line from subconscious to conscious. So you're connected more to it at that period in the day. Yeah, I'm noticing a little bit
and for some, maybe the morning time doesn't work for you. A delay.
Well, I think the internet is under such a burden here. I was exploring this. I have a fiber connection, Ethernet connection from my computer to the wall, and still sometimes the connection can report as unstable. Ooh. So let's keep going. We'll keep going, and then and hopefully the internet will support us in this discussion. Because most of it is great. There was just I was hearing a little bit of breakup there. But let's keep going, and hopefully it'll support us.
Yes. So yeah, again, reflective writing is also known as expressive writing or morning pages. It's known as Write to Heal or therapeutic journaling. And they all have the same end result, which is to help us create certainty during uncertain times.
So help me with the connection to certainty. Like how does that play in with the reflective writing? Where does the certainty come from?
So, okay, there you are. Yeah, so the certainty, it actually comes from 5 key benefits of reflective writing. And I like to share that, and that with reflective writing, it helps us create alignment and balance where we're not seeing some before. And so I like to follow the acronym ALIGN. And so I have it here, but I think it's going to be backwards. I'll have to write backwards. ALIGN is the acronym that we're going to look at.
It's looking perfect.
Right side or?
It's right side for me. Yep, it's good.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it is.
Ooh, I can do it this way then. So ALIGN, get your pen and paper out. So ALIGN is the 5 benefits of reflective writing. Okay. And through these 5 benefits, you'll see the ways in which it creates certainty in uncertain times. Because how can writing on pen and paper do that? So we're going to go through that now.
Awesome.
All right. So the each letter in ALIGN stands for something. So the A in ALIGN is this. I don't think I'll write that out, but the A in the line is to awaken awareness of unconscious biases.
Okay. Awaken
awareness of unconscious biases.
Okay. Because we don't know we have them. First, we got to get in touch with
of unconscious biases.
The unconscious. We got to bring it up somehow, right?
That's it, right? And if you were to go online, Claire, and anyone who's listening to me right now, to research unconscious bias, you'll find that there's like 122 different biases. But I'm all about simplifying what seems complex.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the simple definition of unconscious bias is, Claire, you had mentioned it before, it's a hidden or unknown stereotype or prejudice held by an individual. I'll repeat it. An unconscious bias is an unknown or hidden stereotype or prejudice held by individuals. Some will call this unconscious programming, toxic thoughts, or limiting beliefs. I like to call a spade a spade. It's an unconscious bias.
Yes.
And how it differs from systemic bias is that a systemic bias is prejudices and stereotypes held in institutions. And so, Claire, if I asked you to name institutions that are out there, what would come to mind?
It could be a university. It could be a city council. You know, groups of people that operate within a common structure and a way of being, I guess.
Absolutely. So education, politics, judicial, and so on. We can keep going down the list. Medicine is also another one. So when we look at the system, it seems overwhelming. So that's why if we can focus on our individual unconscious biases, that helps us to address systemic biases. Why? Because within institutions are individuals.
Exactly. And well, that gets to the power of one, right? Like, and you can only control yourself, but from that place, you can be an influence. That's my belief. So it's very powerful to get in touch with what you can believe and open up to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
And so when using reflective writing, one of the things that it helps us to do, it helps us to dig deep and start to explore what I call the inner crevices of our inner terrain. And it helps us to understand how to call up those biases using compassion and using curiosity.
Yeah.
And by doing so, we don't cure the unconscious bias. Instead, what we do is we become aware of the things that trigger these prejudices and stereotypes to come up so that we're more aware of how we make decisions.
So it's great because that perspective of operating with compassion means if you recognize one, you're not going to beat yourself up over it. You're going to notice it. It's sort of a mindful way of approaching this. I get you.
Absolutely. And so some clues that your unconscious bias is talking or trying to get your attention. Perhaps you might notice that you're denying or dismissing or even mocking someone's lived experience with an injustice. I see this happen online all the time. Or you may show up and try to fix or save and rescue that person. Perhaps it's a person of color who has shared their lived experience with racism. And you feel the need to swoop in and fix them, save them, and tell them, it's going to be okay, when in fact this is their experience. Another clue that your unconscious bias needs attention is that you might be getting angry at the person who complains about injustice instead of getting angry at the injustice. And if your circle of friends or colleagues is homogenous, everyone looks the same, everyone is the same gender, skin color, religion, and so on, that's another clue that you should start working on your unconscious biases. And reflective writing helps to, again, slowly and compassionately help you to interrogate your biases so that you embrace the fullness of your humanity.
If it's okay with you, I want to plant one that I'm particularly concerned about now, as many of us are being invited or even told you must work from home now, and it makes a lot of sense. What I'm noticing too is that, and I think a Gallup poll just came out this week saying that 59% of people want to continue working from home as much as possible. But the reason I left the corporate world, and I think this can be true still, is that the person I was working for did not believe in work from home. She had a really strong bias against it and couldn't support it, and very different lifestyles and other reasons too. So there were a lot of hurdles there. And I'm thinking there are, for a lot of leaders out there, a bias that says, well, I can't work from home, therefore I don't think you can work from home, or I believe in that we need to have collaboration and we need to be in the office to have the best collaboration possible. And there's all kinds of opinions and views which then become a bias and become perhaps a shutdown to something. And so I wonder if it's possible to use that example or talk to it at some point through this as we talk to it. Yeah, it's a powerful
Absolutely.
one, I think. Yeah,
it is, because unconscious biases isn't just around social and biological identities. Mm-hmm. It's also around productivity. It's around, for example, one of the writing prompts I have in my community on Patreon is around sleep. What is your relationship with sleep? Because sleep is a productivity issue.
Yeah.
And so this example you brought up around working from home, unconscious biases also surround how we show up and what does productivity mean to each of us. And how can we release those biases so that we can then be a better team player and make better decisions that enable the team to work best.
Yeah, I love that you focus on sleep. I actually made a hashtag called No Sleep Shame, because I think there's an embarrassment. There's a bias to think that if you are sleeping in the day, you are not a productive person. You're a slacker. And I want to shatter that belief. So yeah, I get you.
I'm up at 5:30 a.m. to write. And by about 10:30, like I'm not writing the whole time, but I mean, I write, and that's my most productive part of the day. By about 10:30, Claire, I'm ready for a nap. And I take it unapologetically.
Absolutely, right?
Because that's part of productivity.
It is. My whole thing is sustainable performance. So it's being so self-aware that you know what you need to preserve your energy to step into that place of letting it flow and be in service to other people, right? But if you don't know how to take care of yourself, or you don't believe, there's another bias, you don't believe that it's worth putting yourself first, then how do you get to that place, and how do you stay in that place of being able to give? Right?
Delicious, because I'm going to talk about that, putting yourself first, in one of the letters. All right. So the L in align is loosens anxieties and fears. Loosens anxieties and fears.
I'm writing notes here too, just for me.
All right. So let me just, for those who are looking, loosens anxieties and fears. Okay. Awesome. So for our working from home crowd, there's a lot of worries and anxieties. Some might be worried about income. Perhaps one of the things that crosses my mind is how are children doing? You know, they now have to be at home full time with mom and dad. And now mom and dad is not just their parent, but also their teacher. So these are some very big concerns. So whether it's income that's of concern, perhaps there's a particular status that you've had that you're concerned about. Studies show that when we're in a constant state of worry, it has a negative effect on our immune system.
100%.
And so uncertainty and a prolonged sense of the unknown can make even the most positive person feeling nothing but dread. And so Dr. James Pennebaker, who I mentioned before, has done a lot of research on this. For me to cite one study, I mean, you can do a Google search on his name and you'll find countless studies that he's done, looking at the way that therapeutic journaling can have an impact. And he's found that writing at least 20 minutes a day, a stream of consciousness writing 20 minutes a day, can improve the functioning of your immune system. And especially in these times when we're dealing with a pandemic, nothing can be better than having a strengthened immune system.
Oh, and it's so not talked about. There's been some mention of vitamin D, which links to immunity to a large extent, but sleep as well. I've reframed it as healing time. You know, so as much as we pay attention to the proper hand washing and some barrier methods and distancing, we should be paying equal attention to fortifying our bodies to be able to handle whatever comes at it now and in the future. So
absolutely. And so for many of us working from home, we're cooking more at home, we're baking more at home, which are wonderful ways to keep you in action. But we're also not nutritionists and dietitians. So we
Well,
also have to be aware of, as you mentioned, Claire, we have to be aware of our nutritional intake.
mhm. Yeah, and
Was there something
the
you wanted to add?
carbs boost our serotonin. So we're actually, and I've been experiencing this, drawn to some of that happiness feeling that's coming from the food we're eating. So we got to balance all that out sometimes, right? And yeah, so
Yes.
yeah, there's a lot to be aware of and choices to make. But I had never thought of reflective writing as being part of my immune system strengthening. So I love the power in that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And again, you can do a search in your favorite search engine for the research that Dr. James Pennebaker has put together.
Mm-hmm.
Some clues that your anxiety needs to be addressed. Perhaps you have a short fuse. I can imagine being at home in even as introverts, right? Claire, you are an introvert, as I am.
I'm an ambivert, actually.
Oh,
I'm like
ambivert,
kind of
yes.
right in the middle, actually skewing slightly more to extrovert based on the quiz that I took. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you identify as introverted or ambiverted, and you are in a room or a home filled with people, the introvert loves being home, but kind of prefers being home without people also there.
Yeah.
So this might be a challenge, and you might be finding that you have a short fuse. Other clues, your anxiety needs attention. Perhaps you're feeling a bit of despair, or you're feeling trapped and boxed in, and a sense of hopelessness. And so I'm not dispensing any medical advice, but I am suggesting that if you've tried everything else, grab a pen and paper and write for 20 minutes to see how that will help improve your immune system and mental wellness.
Are you going to get into, you say just grab a pen and paper and write. I can imagine some people will be asking, but how do I start? What do I know how to write? How do you let that bubble up and like, where, what do you do? How would you
Absolutely.
start?
So I will share a resource in a moment that will contain all that information. And that way we can focus more on the benefits. Otherwise I'm going to get too technical.
Okay. But know that people can get to something to help yes. Start that flow, if you will. Yeah. Because
there's a beautiful question I'm going to leave with you, and then I'll give you the resource so you know how to do reflective writing. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to be it's a question I've used with my patrons, and there have been some really awesome results. So I'll share that with you in a moment. All right. So we are at the I, which is so we've looked at the A in Align, which is awaken awareness of unconscious biases. Yeah. The second benefit is the L, which reflective writing helps loosen anxieties and fears. Mm-hmm. The I is that it improves problem solving and critical thinking skills. Mm. Improves.
So this is about cognitive function.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And when we're in the midst of crisis, we can often not think clearly.
Yeah, our amygdala is triggered.
In these times, right? Absolutely. Yeah. And so, especially in these times where some are we're stuck at home, we're working from home, mm-hmm. and we're worried about so many things that it can cloud our decision-making abilities. So, and especially, and I don't know if this is something that you've experienced, Claire, but I've seen a lot of misinformation being shared online.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, personally, the first 2 weeks of March, I think it was, probably from about the 7th or 8th of March on, I was feeling a lot of stress because our government hadn't acknowledged this. I think it hadn't been declared. It was just before it was being declared a global pandemic. And I was actually supposed to travel down to Miami on the 12th of March, so the 12th to the 25th. And I remember going to our CAP speaking meeting on the 9th, and I was namasteing everybody then. And they were looking at me like, you're a little bit weirdo. But I was just like, no, you know what? This is number one, I love the message in namaste is I see the light in you. So I love it as a greeting anyway. And culturally, because I'm part Indian, I'm very at home with it. But it was also a good way to stop people coming any closer kind of thing. Yes. So yes. Yeah, but there was a lot of anxiety for me in that time because nobody was doing anything to stop this massive travel that was about to happen. And we were, as far as I'm concerned, we were late as a government acting. We were treating it as a local problem before we said, no, we need to shut down March break and stop everybody from going and mixing and bringing back the virus from Florida to Quebec, for example, which is something we've definitely seen happen. So yeah, and in that moment, I spent a lot of time on Facebook, misinformation, this is just the flu, dealing with a lot of people who weren't ready to take it seriously. I know one person was saying, well, who else is like me? Who doesn't want to think about this? I just want to look after my clients. Right, I'm like, if you're not looking at this now, this is being irresponsible. It's time to pay attention. So that was really stressful, and trying to not be in the triggered amygdala reacting place, to be able to actually do something and look at influence. So that was for me the trickiest time. And I think then I was able to relax a little bit because we were doing something. And now it's becoming a little uncertain again. What's this reality look like? So probably going to need some new skills. Yeah.
And in these times, if you look at why people share misinformation, it's because they're trying to, again, make sense of their world and regain some control. What I find with reflective writing is that because it forces me to slow down, I mean, it's a practice I've done daily since the beginning of 2017, because it kind of forces me to slow down and to use curiosity to call up those memories. I find that those skills are what help me in this age of misinformation. So reflective writing is it's a powerful tool in helping to strengthen the very skills we need so that we can question what's out there.
I love it on two folds. That place of curiosity that you step into, but also the fact that you're slowing down. And it made me think of my yoga practice, which is also a forced slowdown and a connection to breath and stillness and so on. So this sounds like in that regard, there's some similarities, and we need patience like we've never needed patience before. Standing in the line at grocery shopping now,
Wow.
Right? It's so different. We may not be stuck on the highway yet. That's coming. That's definitely coming. As we don't flock to transit. We're going to be looking at how do I stay in my little bubble for as long as I can. That's right. Patience is we're going to be invited to need our patience more so, more in daily life. So I love that.
And if we can use a contemplative practice such as yoga or meditation, or in my case, reflective writing, as a way to help get us into the habit of slowing down and exercising patience, then you'll find that this is a skill that will naturally just come out in everything you do. So anytime someone sends me something, I'm always questioning, okay, who wrote this? What's the website? And I investigate for hours, well, maybe not hours, but for minutes until
before sharing, right? Before
sharing.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Before sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the power of this. And then when you improve your critical thinking and problem solving skills, you'll find that innovation is easier. You'll find that you will activate the creative parts of your mind that will help you in your home business, or as you work from home, be able to start to see creativity. Is that the word? Creativity.
See creatively or creativity?
Yes.
But either one. Yeah. Well, even as a parent, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I've got 2 teenagers now, and I've often thought parenting drove me to be the most creative person because I had to be a couple of steps ahead, anticipating where the growth was coming, and not always being able to do that, but on the fly, problem solve or create some diversion or, so yeah. So.
All right. So we got 2 more left, and I can go through those rather quickly. Okay. The G is gain clarity on your true calling. So I'll just write that down.
That's sounding a lot like purpose to me.
Yes, ma'am. Gain clarity on your true calling. All right. In the film, there it is.
There we go. Thank you.
In the film, Lord of the Rings, do you remember that from way back?
I am not that kind of a movie. So I'm like,
Some of us are into books. Some of us are into documentaries, which
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
I also like quest type films. And so Lord of the Rings, it's all about getting rid of the one ring because, if it gets into the wrong hands, then humanity is doomed. So there's a character by the name of Boromir.
Okay.
Boromir. And he's part of this fellowship to protect the ring.
Okay.
But he loses sight of his purpose within the fellowship. But then it takes an incident that reminds him why he's part of this fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
But then he loses his life, which is unfortunate. But anyways, it was a character played by Sean Bean. And if you know anything about Sean Bean, his characters usually die before the closing credits. But anyways, I digress. So why did I bring up Boromir? It's because he lost sight of what he was there to do. And so the question I have for you is, what is the one true ring in your life? And how is it keeping you distracted from discovering your life purpose? What is the one true ring in your life? And how is it keeping you distracted from your true purpose?
So what's getting in the way?
What's getting in the way?
Yeah.
Most of us have no idea what it is. We think we do.
What's the block? Yeah.
What's the block?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was in that place years ago where there was a block. Yeah. I was in technology and I knew I wanted out. There's a whole bunch of factors were showing me that, Leesa, your time is up. This poster that's behind me with the light shining on it, it's a poster where an artist here in Toronto, every Black History Month, he commemorates different people within the Black community that have done pretty cool things.
Right.
And so the year he painted me on the poster was the year that I was going through my shift out of technology. So I kind of felt weird. It's like, ooh, I'm on this poster, but I'm actually leaving that field. But in any case,
well, you're supposed to leave when at the top of your game, right? So
true. Oh, thank you for that reframe, Claire. I love it. So reflective writing was a process by which it helped me to explore a lot of who I am. And I have a whole bunch of writing prompts that I've developed that helped my patrons to be able to explore, what are you on this planet Earth to do? Why are you here? And it doesn't start with answering, what are you on this planet Earth to do? And why are you here? It takes a deeper look at family dynamics, at your social and biological identities, your relationship with the environment, nature, and your environment, again, with boundaries and productivity.
I can feel a whole other discussion happening. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
staying focused.
All right, so working from home. And let's take a look at the last one in a line, which is nurtures loving yet strong boundaries.
Oh.
The fifth benefit of reflective writing is that it nurtures loving and strong boundaries.
Oh, I know why we're going to get along. We have some of the same love of language and powerful words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have an acronym that ends in N too, and the end is nurture. And that's a beautiful word. It's a very kind, compassionate word.
Such a beautiful word. And if you consider yourself a people pleaser, if you're highly sensitive, which is a term that Claire and I kind of connected on. Yeah. And Claire, I don't know if you have a definition of how you define what highly sensitive is. And if
I borrow on Elaine Aron, who came up with the concept, and she talks about it as a temperament. Yes. And so it's this incredible capacity for your whole nervous system to be responding to what's around you. So it's not only emotionally, but it's temperature, humidity, touch. Like, I'm the person who refused to read a book club book because the paper was too rough. I was like, the 500 pages of that? No, thank you. I'm out. So it's being so innately in touch with the incoming stimulation that it is both sometimes attacks, but often a blessing, because you can tune into things in a way that not everybody can. So you can be quicker on picking up a cue, understanding where there might be something that is going to cause somebody else a problem and help them be stuck. I use the meerkat analogy. Like we're the meerkats whose eyes and ears are on alert, keeping everybody else safe. But we need to be able to take a break too. So
yes, we do.
yeah.
And for many of us, whenever I introduce the concept of high sensitivity in my workshops, I would say about half the room is shocked, because one of the things I point out is because we live in the culture that we do, that focuses heavily on productivity and one definition of what productivity looks like, and one definition of what it looks like to work from home. And, because of this, we have suppressed our sensitivities in order to fit in. And as a result of trying to fit in, we release one of our biggest superpowers, which is to be able to feel deeply, care deeply, which, Claire, you mentioned before, is both a blessing and can be at times a curse. But if we can get in touch with our sensitivities, we'll find that we're not as fragile to others when they're expressing pain. We'll find that we will see the world in a different way. We'll find that our compassion is a huge leadership bonus, especially in this time. And I believe in the post-COVID-19 world, more and more people will be looking to compassionate leaders for the answers on how to move ahead.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, what I want to leave with you is, if you know what you're saying yes to, then your no becomes easy.
Absolutely.
And that comes from the book called The Power of Positive No by William Ury. And if you know what you're saying yes to, your no becomes, I know what I'm saying yes to. I'm saying yes to simplicity. I'm saying yes to independence. I'm saying yes to truth, playfulness, and hope. Those are my primary values. And because I'm saying yes to that, then anytime a project comes along, then I'm able to ask myself, is this complex or simple? If it's simple, I say yes. Does this project honor my time and location independence? If yes, right? If yes, I'm in. And it's just the same. If you're watching Claire and I right now and you're saying, I love working from home, I want to do more of it. What's your value that you're saying yes to? And does the company that you work for honor that primary value in agreeing for you to continue to work from home? If it's no, then you have to make a decision. And if it's yes, then you know what to do.
Well, and the decision can be first to try and what this talks to a lot is figure out what your boundaries are, because I talk about playing graceful defense. And so it's similar to your words, right? You're nurturing the boundaries, loving boundaries, right? And there's a grace in being playing and defending your boundaries, because you're so certain of what you need to keep yourself preserved, your energy full, and your ability to give strong, that it's not a fight anymore. It's simply, this is okay and this is not okay. And we talk a lot these days of Brene Brown and vulnerability, but she's got a lovely bit of insight around compassion as well. And she talks about the most boundaried people. And I think boundary is not a word, but she uses it and it totally works. The most boundaried people are those who can stay most compassionate, because they're protecting. And as highly sensitive people, you have to, I've been doing research, and can I become less sensitive? I can't change my nervous system. I can build skills to recenter more quickly, but I cannot, if somebody's going to run their nails down the blackboard, I am not going to stop getting chills. My cat, one of them uses the scratching post. The other one likes to go on the wall. And I'm like, dude, stop this. I will never stop reacting to that sound, but I can center more quickly.
Right.
But I'm going to try and give him some boundaries if the wall is not cool. It's
not
so
cool.
Boundaries really play into this in a big way.
It's huge. And that's one way in uncertain times that you can create certainty. Certainty. If I continue to say yes to what's important to me, then no matter what changes external to me, I'm still able to say yes to my values and beliefs. That's what helps me create certainty. And a process of reflective writing was what helped me to gain clarity. Because I look at these words, I mean, we can choose words out of the sky, but I have to understand why this particular word. And by going through a stream of consciousness writing, it brought up memories, it brought up situations, and then it became clear, oh, that's why it's independence and not these other words. That's why it's simplicity and not these other words.
Yeah, this is slow cooking. This is taking the time, right? Because you have to let the words, you have to dance with them. I talk a lot about dancing and discomfort to move through growth. Yes. And we have to be knowing and okay that everything's not always, it's just not going to feel easy necessarily. Right. It's going to be like, why is that one causing some resistance? That word's not sitting right. Okay, keep digging deeper and be brave enough to dig a little deeper and to be uncomfortable a little longer, because then the richness of what you're baking is there.
And you touch on something, which is, this is not glamorous work. It's not sexy. It's messy. It's chaotic. Yeah. But on the other side of that is freedom.
A lightness. There's a lightness. In the knowing too, right? And having something you can count on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And alignment, of course.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. I love that you built that around a liner that came together that way. It's a powerful word, and it connects to those values, which are anchors in all of this, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. You circle back to how this creates certainty. It's in the knowing that you sort of simmer. So if somebody is going to start, okay, I'm going to be really silly practical now.
Yes, of course.
If somebody's going to start, okay, Leesa, I'm buying this slow down, I'm buying this incubate. When am I going to start to feel a little more certain? How soon does that show up? Like, I'm a results person. I like to,
yes, of course.
When am I going to feel differently? How is this going to feel for me?
To that, I would say that it happens differently for each different person. But the first struggle isn't, and this is something I noticed of the media as well. They ask a question, plotting a course to the future, but we haven't even done anything right now. Right. And so the thing that I would ask you, not you, Claire, but you who's listening, to do is to focus on, the first step is to ask yourself, if I could create a daily practice around reflective writing, what time of day can I do this? You'll need at least 30 minutes of uninterrupted time. And some of my patrons, they've done, they've hired a dog walker to take the dog out for 30 minutes. Or they'll do it first thing in the morning when their spouse is at home, and the kids can be, eating breakfast with their spouse while they go off and do the reflective writing. For some others, like one of my certified facilitators, she's given exercises to parents so that while mom or dad is writing, their child is doing a drawing exercise at the same time. So that's why I'm of the belief that although morning time and very early in the morning is the best time, you have to assess, given your personality and lifestyle, what will work for you.
Just like exercising. The best time is when you can do it. Is like when it fits is the best time. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's the first step. The first step is to identify what time of day you can actually set aside 30 minutes to get this work done. And then when you do sit, you can either use keyboard and screen or pen and paper. In my workshops, you use pen and paper because I can't stand hearing the fingernails on the keyboard.
Well, do you know if there's any difference in the flow of thinking, or does it it's whichever one you're more comfortable with?
Well, in that moment, like when you're on your own, whatever works best at getting those ideas out. But there is a somatic experience when you do pen and paper. There's something, and somatic, if you're not familiar with that term, it's the study of how, and Claire, you can help me with this definition, the study of how the body responds and
It's to do with the body interaction. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you're writing, there's like, when I'm in my workshops and people are writing, things start happening. People start shifting in their seats. I see people stop writing and doing the shaking their hands. Some will stand up, sit down as they're writing.
Yeah.
And I mention this because in the culture we've been raised in, we've been told to not trust our emotions or our bodies. We've been told to only keep it to the facts, keep everything up here. And the problem is when we disconnect from our bodies, we disconnect from the answers that we truly need.
Mm.
And so when we're doing reflective writing, it's a process by which it connects mind to the memories with the feelings that are occurring in our bodies.
Mm.
Heart's beating fast, stomach's churning. Some people say they have wobbly limbs as they're trying to write. And when I hear that, I know that there's a beauty that's happening because they're finally reconnecting with their body, which is where all the answers lie.
Well, that's powerful. The other thing that's coming up for me is there's different speeds to,
Yes.
depending on how you type. There can be slow or pretty quick, and writing, and it's definitely slower than speaking.
Yeah.
So it prompted the question for me is there anything so much as reflective speaking? Like if I was to want to go for a walk and just babble into my iPhone and record it,
Yeah.
would there be value in that, or is that?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
There is value in that as well. And there's some studies that show. And then for some who will say to me that there's mobility issues concerning writing, or that they can get their ideas better out if they speak.
Sometimes I find that I'll go for a walk when I'm still writing my book. It's very slow to come out, but I found certain chapters, if I'm stuck, walking can kind of free the mind a little bit and things can start to flow.
Yeah. So whichever way works for you, just remember if you do attend one of my workshops, we're using pen and paper only. But in your alone time, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
But it's important that when you do this work, that you remember the connection between mind and body.
Powerful. Well, I love it. It's fascinated. Whoa. That was the time.
Yes, the time.
Yeah, but that was beautifully rich. So I just have one question for you, because you talked about this movement from technology to writing and how this, like, help me understand what happened for you there in the transition to the work that you're doing now. What brought you to this? And then we'll open it up for questions.
It's interesting. So I go from a fast-paced industry of technology. Like, today I know Twitter, and 5 minutes from now it's some other new tool, right?
TikTok. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I was, so it was 2017, January 3rd. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. with the intention of writing my first book of fiction. Yeah. And it was supposed to be historical fiction. And I had plotted out the outline. And I said to myself, I don't know what's next, but I know my days in technology are coming to a close. And I had this piece of work inside of me that needed to get out. And so what started as a process to write at 4:30 a.m., one chapter each day. And I did that for 59 straight mornings, writing a chapter and then writing a chapter and so on. Yeah. Then turned into an exercise of doing reflective writing for myself after I experienced a professional setback. And I kept doing that day after day after day after day. And it seemed like it wasn't the characters inside the historical fiction that I needed to develop. It appeared I needed to develop the character of Leesa.
Oh, wow.
Feels weird talking about myself in the third person, but but that's what ended up happening. And so while I was in this process, it took a year for me to write each morning, still at 4:30 a.m., and this time writing about the stories that I believed about myself and deconstructing that. And it took a year. And it was during that year, Claire, that I had no idea what I was going to do next. I had no idea where this writing was moving me into. I had no idea.
Wow. That's a brave curiosity. And did you have a sense of trust in that you could relax into and do that without worry? This whole anxiety?
Lots. Like I remember not making a lot of money that year, not sure where anything was going to come from. I was closing my digital marketing company. And so I wasn't sure I didn't even know that this would be the next step, that I'd be using prompts to help people unpack their stuff.
Right.
Like I had no idea, Claire. And so there I was. And that's a secret about this, is that when you use reflective writing, the answers will come. Just the timetable is when those answers will show up is uncertain.
So patience again, coming back to patience. Yeah.
Patience again.
Yeah.
So it was a tough process, really tough. But it was 10 months in that I wrote a blog post, and I had an interaction with someone, and I had offered him some writing prompts to work through his anger. And he completely shut the door on that gift. So I said, okay, I'll put on a blog post. And Clara had no idea what it was going to do.
Yeah.
A post on my blog is typically shared 200 times. So when I published this blog post, went to dinner, did some errands, 4 hours later, I came back and it was shared 1,000 times.
Wow.
And then it kept growing. And in the first 3 weeks of publishing that post, it was shared 10,000 times.
Wow.
Yeah. And then people saw the blog post and were like, okay, we want more. And then I launched my community on Patreon, where I delivered new writing prompts every week to hundreds and hundreds of people who back my work.
So how powerful it is to you never know what can come up from this. Interesting what can come from this creative writing, right? What happened for you?
That's part of the beauty, right? It's that adventure. Like I didn't know what the end result would be. I just knew that it was the adventure that was keeping me interested. Yeah. What was I going to find? What was I going to uncover?
And that pulled you forward. So there was an intrinsic motivation that came from when you wrote the state of being that you were in, what you evoked, that pulled you forward to keep with the writing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things I talk about with people is the ABCs of behavior change. And the last step is E. It's about engagement and being so self-aware about that thing you want to change. When you've accomplished it, every time you accomplish it, to really immerse yourself, let that ooze all in your body and your mind. So you're so in touch with that emotion that comes up. That's where I think intrinsic motivation lies, because you're like, I want some more of that. I want some more of that. And if you don't do it one day, hearken back to that feeling and tune in, because you'll be pulled in that direction if it's really working for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, I've learned a lot here, and I've been a random writer. So all through my life, I'll write a journal, sometimes very consecutively, and other times go deep. And sometimes it's here's what I'm processing, what happened in the day. Sometimes it's this morning writing and seeing what comes up. Sometimes it's capturing my dreams, which were wacko weird last night. And there's another subconscious thing coming out, right? So trying to what? Understand those. But this is giving me some thought to try to adopt a bit more regularity around that, to see what comes up. Yeah. And especially now, because yes, the sense of calm and control and stepping into that every day is a really powerful thing. So I want to thank you. I want for people who want to find you, reflectivewritingprompts.com.
Yes,
okay, let me just see if I can bring that up, and I might be able to share the screen here just so that there's let's see here. Yeah, I think so. Tell me if you can see that. Can you see
yes,
that?
There it is.
Leesa Renee Hall, exploring bias one field trip at a time. Expressive writing prompts to use if you've been accused of white fragility, spiritual bypass, or white privilege. So lots to dig deep in there, but it's going to apply, like you said, to the 122 different kinds of bias that are there, which I had no idea. I'm, of course, more curious about that. But to be able to dig into that. And then from there, would they be able to find your community on Patreon and be able to find more about how to work with you if this is something that you want to explore more fully? Then
absolutely.
Lisa's your girl. Awesome. I want to say,
and let me just add that that blog post is around unconscious biases regarding skin color and skin color privilege and race and so on. But I want to really emphasize something that Claire pointed out before, which is that unconscious biases also encompasses productivity, boundaries, ancestry, family dynamics, relationship with the environment, sustainability. And those are the type of prompts that exist within my community on Patreon.
Amazing. Well, I'm dead curious. So thank you for enlightening me. I just want to check in with Heidi, who's been with us this whole time, and see if Heidi, if you have any questions. I am going to unmute you for a second so you can jump in and share if you have any questions that you want to ask of either Leesa or myself. And since Leesa's really tuned into productivity too, feel free to jump in if it's a productivity question, Leesa.
Sure.
Well, I'm just kind of curious in terms of, you got me really thinking about a lot of things, especially now with the whole work from home and productivity. But in order to do sort of that kind of like the writing that you're talking about, I'm kind of wondering like really kind of like how to start other than just start rambling on a piece of paper. And does it always have to be pen to paper, or can it be electronic?
So 2 questions in there. One you answered, it can be electronic, no problem. You answered that one already.
Yes.
But could you give Heidi an idea? How could she get started? Like just a simple thought there, and maybe then direct us to where else we can go deeper.
Okay, so I'm gonna give, because it's a Heidi, you asked an awesome question, because while Julia Cameron will suggest that you just grab your pen, paper, start writing. If you want, and that's a way to reclaim your creativity. If you want to reclaim your productivity or your humanity or whatever it may be, then you need some guidance. And so one question that I'm going to encourage you to start with is, what are you grieving the loss of during these uncertain times? Okay.
Oh my gosh. I love that question. I've been talking about micro losses because there are many. There are many. Yeah.
So what are you grieving the loss of during these uncertain times? Certainly if you've lost a loved one, then that would be most obvious. Other less obvious things is stability. Perhaps you had big plans for 2020. You're going to take that big trip and now it's gone. Perhaps you're worried about dipping into savings. Perhaps you're wondering about the mental wellness of your family members as you're all locked in that house.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't like to use the term locked in. As you're sheltering in place.
Words
matter. Words matter. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot that you might be grieving at this time. And so Heidi, if you take that question, and anyone listening, you take that question, what are you grieving the loss of during these uncertain times? The first thing I'd ask you to do, and it's an acronym called GPS, and I love acronyms because it keeps me focused. Otherwise, I'll just keep blah, 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 blah. Okay, so
give me GPS here.
GPS. Yeah. So when you see this question, the G in GPS is to go over it, skim it 2 or 3 times. There's no need, don't focus in on what are, unless, English is not your first language or something, but, just skim over it 2 or 3 times. The P in GPS is to ponder and feel where in your body something's coming up. I love seeing your excitement, Claire.
Notice. It's to know. Yeah. To just, and this is the being okay with being uncomfortable, because this whole question is around what you're grieving. So we know it's not like, this isn't go sit at the top most 10 happy places you've ever been. This is dancing with loss and being okay to be in pain and invite that pain back to be something that you're considering.
Yes.
So be careful with this one. I think be careful with this one, because this can open up, and be okay. You're feeling open, and also I would say have support. Know that if you feel like it's becoming difficult, who can you call? Who can you reach out to? Who can be there for you if you're triggering some difficult thoughts in any time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so great points. And then the S is to start writing. And oftentimes you'll start writing reflectively. Some of the pointers would be to start with what you're feeling in your body. You can start writing by saying, I'm feeling a tightness in my chest. I'm not sure why it's there. And then you'll find that that's the invitation that your inner being needs to start giving you clues as to why you're grieving, what you're grieving, how you're feeling, and then coming out on the other side, the summit, and seeing some clarity.
I'm loving this.
Yes.
Because you stay in the body. So this is the feeling part. Then
Yes.
you move to the, what do I think about this part? So we're connecting the heart and the mind. And I was listening to a buddy of ours, Dan Pontefract, this morning. He was talking about empathy living in 3 places: cognitively, in our heads, where often we think about it, but emotionally, again, with how we're feeling it. And then what do we do sympathetically? How do we act? And so I think I'm sensing a similarity in when we're going to write, to feel it, to think it, and then maybe even the clarity comes from, well, okay, now I know what to do. Maybe.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah.
And if not, then just repeat the process the next day. Put down your writings, dance to some music, prioritize your self-care. In my workshops, what we do is after we write, I throw on Material Girl by Madonna, and we dance about the room. We dance around the room, and we do that, 1, to reward our body for what it told us, but number 2, to shift the energy so that when we sit back down and look back on our writings before we share, we're able to do so from a non-judgmental place. Because we participate in an element of play in between the hard stuff and then the reflection.
So,
that's an excellent starting point.
Sorry, Heidi, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's an excellent sort of starting point, regardless of the sort of what you're sort of looking at. Absolutely.
Well, and I love that, changing the energy. It's like, you're tasting wines and you have a cleanser because you're resetting. Right? I
love the analogy.
I get weird analogies popping in my head, but yeah.
I love it. And also go, and Heidi, you've just said something which was a trigger for me in a good way, that go where where it's taking you. So, and you alluded to this, Heidi, where you can start with grieving the loss of freedom, of money, of stability, whatever it may be, but you may find that your writings are now taking you elsewhere. Go on that journey. Take that fork in the road and continue going, and then set your timer for 20 minutes. And when it goes off, put the writings down. Don't read it. Prioritize your self-care.
Read it.
Don't read it.
Really?
Yes.
When have you been ever asked to do something and then ignore it?
That feels weird, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah, don't read it, and then prioritize your self-care at that moment, because you may have uncovered some things, as Claire has suggested, that might be too tough, too hard, or you just need a break. Just reset the energy. And then the next day or later on that afternoon, whatever it may be, if it's still there, then you can continue writing for another 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
Isn't it? I'm excited. So Heidi, you're going to give this a shot?
I absolutely am.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what time of the day is the best time yet, but that'll be the first challenge. But yeah, I'm definitely going to go for it.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you. Any other questions that you have for either of us?
No, I think that's it for now. Thanks so much.
Okay, a pleasure having you with us. And I just wanted to close by inviting everyone again to check Reflective Writing Prompts, .com, where you can find Leesa and access her community as well. I found this really insightful, really positive, and very aligned with how I think. All the puns intended. So I just want to thank you, Leesa. This is an act of self-love. I often talk about rituals, and rituals having a place in our lives as honored things we look forward to doing. And so I'm hoping for many of you that are watching that this could become one of those rituals that you treasure and count on, especially as we go through this journey that we're on. So thank you, Leesa. Anything final that you'd like to say?
I usually have a witty retort or a nice quote, and nothing's coming to mind. Oh my goodness.
Well, this has been so rich. No. This has been so rich with deep thinking, great content, and an encouragement to try. this. So I'm excited to see what comes up for people, for myself as well. And that don't read it was like the surprise ending right there. It was like a what? Say what? You don't read it and review it and have right? So for me, I'm right with you, Heidi. That was like, say what? So yeah, but it's the process. Therein lies. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, this is what I usually end with, is that when you do reflective writing, it allows you to accept the humanity in yourself, which then allows you to see the humanity in others. And therefore, we're less fragile and less willing to dismiss or mock someone's lived experience with a particular oppression or marginalization, because we've come to accept the marginalized and oppressed portions of ourselves.
This is the opportunity in this time, because it's the great leveling, especially if you're, videoing somebody. I mean, we see Kelly Ripa in a bathrobe at home doing TV, or it doesn't matter what you've got, wealth, status, whatever. We are now human to human. We are now in our living rooms, and our life is all around us. And I love this opportunity. So, and it does start with self-compassion. The greater that can be, the more you can be compassionate to other people. So thank you for this deep invitation to experience more of that, and hopefully will lead to a society that's more respectful for humanity overall.
I agree. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. Okay, wishing you both a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again, Leesa, for joining. Thank you, Heidi. And to everyone that's watching on Facebook, it's been wonderful to have you along on this journey. You can find more of these fabulous Work From Home Better interviews at youtube.com/Clare Kumar. So stay tuned for more wonderful interviews with people in my community who are real experts and have lots of gems and treasures to offer. All right, have a wonderful day. Take care.